Hi, welcome to another episode of Lunar Love Notes. Today, we are going to be talking about the Pisces lunar eclipse. It's a full moon lunar eclipse that takes place on Sunday, September 7th, 2025. And this episode is also the first episode is going to be shared on YouTube as well. So if you prefer to absorb this type of information via video format, there will be a link in the show notes or in the Substack post so that you can watch on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, then hi. Okay, so eclipses. We're now in eclipse season, and eclipses are really just like a supercharged and karmic new moon or full moon. Eclipses can only happen when there's a new moon or a full moon also happening, and they occur when that new or full moon is taking place within a certain number of degrees of one of the lunar nodes, which we'll get into what that means in a minute. But what that means for us is that these are kind of portals where we have greater access to shifts that might otherwise take months or years. The karmic nodes are kind of our compass, helping us move in the right direction, guiding us in the right direction. And when new and full moons occur in close proximity to these points, then movement along that path can happen much more rapidly. So the lunar nodes, they're also called the nodes of fate, the karmic nodes, and these are not celestial bodies, it's these mathematical points that denote eclipse zones. So they do have a sign. There's a north node and a south node, and they're always in opposite signs, sister signs. And they move much more slowly than the sun or the moon do. They spend 18 months in each set of signs. And then when the sun enters one of those signs, we know that we are near an eclipse season, because then the sun and the moon will have their new and full moons in close proximity to these nodes, these mathematical points, and that's what results in eclipses. And the reason that these energetically have a different signature than a regular new or full moon is because those lunations, those new and full moons, are influenced by the karmic nature of the nodes. Yeah. Okay. And then, like, what does that mean? Like karmic energy, fated nodes, that sounds kind of like out there, maybe. But this is how I kind of work with it. And you can take what makes sense and leave what doesn't, tweak it to fit your perception of like life and your worldview. But the way that I conceptualize the North and South Node is that these are providing guidance towards our highest timeline, like the experiences that we came here to have. We came into this particular life and time and set of circumstances with an intention to have specific experiences to learn certain lessons. And attuning to these nodes can help move us along that path of having those experiences, learning those lessons, growing, and like evolving as a soul. So the north node we can think of as our compass, and the south node is also there, just like on a real compass, there's all four directions. The south node is kind of reminding us of what we are moving away from. So it's guidance to help us along our journey, to kind of reorient us into the right direction. Now, the North Node is usually operating in the background. It's not like something that we are super conscious of all the time. Other celestial points and bodies are much more present in our consciousness, like the sun and moon, which we probably can observe with the naked eye almost every day. Mercury represents the conscious mind. So Mercury's movements, we are often much more aware of that influence on us. But the North Node is more so like operating in the background, much like the outer planets and Chiron. this point, the North and South nodes, they interact with other planets or with things in our own natal charts that kind of provide opportunities to work with the energy. They bring it into our consciousness and make it more accessible at different points throughout the year. And these 2 eclipse seasons that we have each year are the longest, loudest, and strongest opportunities that we have throughout the year to work with the nodes. So currently, the North Node is in Pisces and the South Node is in Virgo. These are signs that are opposite each other, and they moved into these signs at the beginning of the year. So we are maybe about halfway through this transit of North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. So we'll have at least one more eclipse season, like in the spring, and probably next fall we'll have at least one eclipse in either Pisces or Virgo, depending on the order of things. But the invitation that we are all collectively being asked to respond to during this transit is to kind of meet our growth edge, to embody these highest qualities of Pisces. So that's our North Node. That's the direction we're moving towards. And these highest qualities of Pisces that are accessible to everyone, regardless of if you have any Pisces in your natal chart. This is sensitivity, trusting our intuition, staying open to magic, and surrendering to life. So depending on your own personality and natal chart, that might sound like so woo-woo and out there, or it might sound like, yes, that's totally part of me already. And yeah, like if it feels really accessible to you, then your invitation during this time is to embody that and like set an example. And if that feels like so out there, then your invitation is to just take one little step in that direction. And then the other side of the coin, the other half of this invitation is around that South Node. So what are we stepping away from? And this is not to say we're rejecting all Virgo energy. Instead, we are invited to bring awareness around ways that we embody the lower qualities of Virgo energy. So every sign has those highest qualities that we all want to embody in some way, shape, or form, the highest qualities of each sign, right? And they're all accessible to us in different ways. But each sign also has these kind of shadow qualities, the ways that energy can show up that is not healthy, that is not beneficial, that can be destructive or cause problems. And we are, depending on our own makeup, our own astrological makeup, our own personalities, and like life experiences, we are susceptible to those lower qualities of certain signs. Like if you have a lot of Capricorn energy, then you have a lot of access to both the gifts and the shadows of Capricorn energy. And so just like with that, we're being invited to bring awareness around ways that we embody the lower qualities of Virgo energy. And so usually, almost always actually, these will be the opposite of those gifts that we just talked about with the Pisces energy, the sensitivity, the trust, openness. So the flip side of those, that could be like needing extreme practicality and like concrete reasons for every single thing that we do, like demanding evidence before we agree with something, needing to have a lot of control over a situation. That could be like over our own selves, or it could be over others. And then criticism, which just like the control piece, being critical of ourselves or being critical of others. These are things we want to bring awareness around. And so some of us might think, wow, I can think of like 15 ways that I am too controlling. And our work is laid out for us, right? And maybe someone who already is more attuned to that Pisces side doesn't feel like they have that much popping up immediately with these lower qualities of Virgo. And so again, the invitation would be to be setting the example and to be really committed to embodiment of those Pisces values. Now, there are some people for whom this eclipse season is specifically really significant, And that is if your natal north node is in one of those two signs. So if your natal north node is in Pisces or Virgo, then the nodes are interacting with your nodes, and it's a very like karmically significant year for you. And these eclipse seasons are like moments of intensity and of louder invitation to work with the energy. So if your north node is in Pisces, that aligns with what's going on right now. So you're having your nodal return. The north node is currently in Pisces, and that matches what's in your natal chart. And so for you, this is really a time where the collective invitation aligns with your personal lifelong invitation, which is to embody those Piscean qualities. And so you'll have a lot of support, like the collective energy is moving in the same direction that you have been asked to move in throughout your entire life. And so a lot of progress can be made on that karmic path, that realignment with the like best version of your life, with those lessons that you came here to learn, if you really commit to tapping into that Piscean energy during this time. Now, if your north node is in Virgo, then it's actually your nodal opposition. So your north node is opposite where the current north node is. And that might seem like it's more challenging. That might seem bad because a lot of times oppositions are really challenging. But in this case, because these nodes come in pairs, it's actually a time that can be really easy. It can be really affirming because in our personal natal charts, when we come in with this south node, we don't just come in with the negative qualities of that south node. Now, we have the gifts. So this north node Virgo person, they come in with the gifts and the shadows of Pisces. And their invitation throughout their life is to like let go of the shadowy sides of Pisces, but they're still holding on to the gifts as they also strive to learn about the highest qualities of that Virgo energy. And so when everyone around us is working to learn about this unfamiliar Pisces energy, the North Node Virgo person already is very familiar and comfortable with Pisces energy because that is what they came into the world already knowing. And so they can also be that example that these are likely people who it comes naturally to embody aspects of Pisces energy. Now, they may like struggle to be always embodying the highest qualities of it. You know, it's a mixed bag, but it's accessible. It can be more accessible, especially than it is for the North Node Pisces person. The North Node Pisces person is meeting their growth edge, that uncomfortable growth edge. And the North Node Virgo person is in a like a nostalgic familiarity. And just like when we maybe like go back to our hometown or hang out with our friends from high school, like that doesn't necessarily bring out the best version of us, but it is a version of us that feels very comfortable, like your most comfortable pair of jeans or whatever. It's not as much of an uncomfortable growth edge experience. Okay. So that's kind of the eclipse season that we're working with. And all of that information will also be relevant for the second eclipse that we have in 2 weeks, which will be the new moon Virgo solar eclipse. But now I'm going to get into specifically about this Pisces. Did I say full moon? I meant new moon. This is a Pisces full moon lunar eclipse. And then we'll have the new moon Virgo solar eclipse in 2 weeks. So now during eclipse season, generally with a full moon, we would be intentionally shedding and intentionally releasing because that's the other half of manifesting, which a lot of times with the new moon, we are intentionally calling things in. And then with the full moon, we are intentionally letting things go. But during eclipses, we don't really want to be like infusing our intention in with the eclipse energy because the eclipse is going to do what it wants to do. And by trying to exert our own control or our own influence on it, it can just kind of go sideways and not necessarily bring what we want. Yeah. So instead, what we want to do, this is still that full moon exhale, things being removed from our lives. Instead of thinking about our lives or, choosing something with our mind that we want to let go of, instead, we want to kind of sit back and create quiet space and time and allow messages to come through, like ask for guidance to see what is being removed from your life. And sometimes it can be really loud and obvious, especially if we have planets or points near the eclipse point, which is 15 degrees. But sometimes it's a lot more subtle, and, we might not really realize what has been let go of until further down the line, and we look back and we realize this shift began during eclipse season, but it didn't come into fruition until, maybe near the end of the year or something like that. And so there's not a whole lot for us to do during eclipse season, which can be really hard, especially I think when the South Node is in Virgo, which wants to do something. Like Virgo energy loves to have that to-do list that it can go off, check off each thing on the to-do list and feel really productive and feel like it's making progress. And this eclipse season is asking us to sit and meet that growth edge, that Piscean surrendered, receiving growth edge, and just allow something to happen. Now, we also have support during this eclipse from Jupiter. This is making gently supportive aspect to, oh, I didn't write it down. It's making a gently supportive aspect to one of them. Okay, gently supportive aspect to the sun, strongly supportive aspect to the moon during the full moon. And so Jupiter is this planet of expansion, and oftentimes it can be ease and luck. And also sometimes it can be like, lighting ants on fire with a magnifying glass. Like it can expand in good ways and bad ways. But as the ruler of Pisces and then making that strongly supportive aspect to the moon in Pisces, I think that this will allow us to tap into that ease and slowness where we can actually stop and create space and allow insight to come through, which is not necessarily always accessible, as I was just saying, during Virgo season when we want to be in control of things and actively making change. But this Jupiter energy, a lot of times Jupiter energy can be this like overwhelming, like confidence that like everything is working out and I don't even need to take a single action. And a lot of the time that works against us because, we need to be taking action if we want things to happen in general, a lot of the times. But this is actually the perfect time to listen to that and not take action, but just allow and observe. Okay. Now, this eclipse this weekend is exact. The North Node is just like 3 degrees away from the moon during the eclipse. So it's when the closer the node is to the moon during the eclipse, the more like percent totality it reaches or whatever. I don't know the exact terminology here. And so this eclipse is visible from Earth, but it's not visible in the Americas. It's visible if you're in Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, then you might be able to see the eclipse. But the more total it is, the closer that karmic point is to the moon, the tighter the conjunction and the stronger an influence it exerts on it. And then the eclipse that we'll have later on in the month is not as tight, but it does have quite a lot of other stuff going on in the chart. So I think it will still be a very significant eclipse. This one I think will feel a little bit better. But yeah, during eclipse season, there's not a lot to do. We really just want to be, enjoying the ride, journaling a lot, sleeping a lot, writing down our dreams, and all that good stuff. So I hope that this eclipse does what it needs to do in your life, whether you take that positively or ominously is up to you. And I will see